In today's episode, a 50-year-old Russian spacecraft is plummeting toward Earth. A revolutionary rocket-powered catapult is attempting to reach space, and construction of China's own Starship has commenced. In 1972, the Soviet Union launched a probe destined for the planet Venus, a relatively compact yet extraordinarily dense metal sphere packed with scientific instruments. Its mission was to penetrate the thick acidic cloud layers above Venus and parachute down to the hostile surface, where it would struggle to survive in an environment resembling a pressure cooker. However, the mission failed to proceed as planned. Here's footage captured through a telescope in May 2025. Do you see that small dot streaking across the frame? That's neither a satellite nor an asteroid. That is the aged Soviet Venus probe from 1972. It never departed our vicinity, and this weekend it's returning home. A malfunction with the Soviet rocket booster trapped the probe in an unstable orbit high above Earth, approximately 10,000 kilometers or 6,000 miles up. Over the past 5 decades, it has been gradually descending. Officially designated as Cosmos 482, the probe was actually part of the Soviet Venera program that dispatched landers to Venus throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. Following the rocket malfunction, the mission was redesignated from Venera to Cosmos, essentially the Soviets' way of pretending it was a routine Earth orbit satellite rather than a failed Venus mission. This was their standard practice. Whenever a space launch went awry, they would simply rebrand it with a different name and act as though everything had gone according to plan. Cosmos 482 would have launched simultaneously with the Soviets' Venera 8, an identical probe that successfully reached Venus's surface and functioned for approximately 1 hour before succumbing to the extreme heat. Now, aging satellites and rocket debris fall from space regularly. We barely notice. In the worst scenarios, a few metal fragments land in some farmer's field. But this situation will be dramatically different. Venus's atmosphere is roughly 90 times denser than Earth's atmosphere. That's what the probe was engineered to withstand. It's constructed with an extremely thick steel shell on the exterior and a secondary titanium sphere on the interior that safeguards the scientific instruments. Therefore, in this instance, it won't incinerate. It won't fragment into smaller pieces. We're looking at a cannonball weighing approximately 500 kilograms or 1,000 pounds that will strike Earth at a velocity exceeding 150 miles per hour or around 250 kilometers per hour. Perhaps the most concerning news is that we don't know its landing location. The most precise information scientists have provided is that the probe will descend somewhere between 52 degrees north latitude and 52 degrees south latitude, which essentially encompasses most of the world from the southern tip of South America to northern Russia. So yes, virtually anywhere, including my residence and likely yours as well. Should we panic? No. The majority of Earth's surface is covered by water, making that the most probable landing site for the spacecraft. In the ocean, even on land, human populations are quite dispersed. There's an abundance of fields, forests, and deserts out there. So unless this object happens to plummet directly through a high-rise apartment building, it's extremely unlikely that anyone will be injured. The probe was originally equipped with a parachute designed to deploy in Venus's atmosphere to decelerate it for landing, but we're uncertain about the current condition of that parachute. Some observations suggest it has already deployed in space and has been trailing behind the probe, in which case it will certainly burn up during re-entry and have no impact. If the parachute remains intact inside the probe, there's no way to determine whether the automated deployment system still functions. Probably not. Even if it does work, it's programmed for landing on Venus, so the calculations wouldn't be correct. And even if they were, the parachute was designed smaller to accommodate Venus's denser atmosphere. Consequently, it won't capture enough air on Earth to make a significant difference. Unfortunately, the precise impact location cannot be predicted until the probe begins its final descent. We'll receive approximately 20 minutes of advance warning. That's all. Our best current estimate points to May 10th as the re-entry date. So just between you and me, I'd suggest keeping your head up this weekend and watching for anything unusual in the sky. Have you ever experienced that unsettling feeling when you realize your personal information is simply out there? Like some questionable company you've never encountered has your name, email, phone number, perhaps even your home address, and they're essentially distributing it like promotional flyers at a shopping mall. Sure, you could attempt to clean it all up yourself, spend hours searching through data broker websites, completing forms, sending emails, following up, or, hear me out, you could choose not to. That's what Incogni is for. They monitor every request, track the removals, and keep you updated throughout the process. This way, you can return to doing literally anything else. With their brand new custom removal feature, you can now identify any site you distrust, and Incogni will access it and erase your data there as well. Essentially, if you know your information has been leaked, they'll retrieve it for you. Here's another unconventional flying object, but this one won't be crashing into your residence anytime soon. It's a new American company called Radian Aerospace that just unveiled a new, unusually shaped re-entry vehicle. This is a test vehicle that will prepare them to construct one of the most advanced space planes ever conceived, which will be capable of transporting humans to orbit with zero wasted material. The company intends to accelerate the vehicle from the ground using rockets mounted on a train track before propelling it into space. The plane will then ignite its own engines to complete the journey to orbit. Often referred to as a rocket sled due to its operational method, this technology was initially conceived in the 1950s. Nevertheless, this marks the first time any company has genuinely committed to using it to achieve orbit. Unlike other space planes, such as the one created by Virgin Galactic for space tourism purposes, this model will be capable of achieving full orbital flight with cargo and crew. Additionally, Radian 1 will be able to land on any runway, measuring at least 10,000 feet in length, which is attainable at most commercial airports. This makes it a fully reusable, highly adaptable solution for both cargo and human spaceflight missions. However, for them to make the spacecraft operational, they need to master bringing it down safely first. To accomplish this, they are now developing a small prototype that will be covered in Radian's new heat shield material. The test vehicle, known as the Radian Reusable Re-Entry Vehicle, or RV-3, will be launched sometime in 2026. Its objective is to be as minimal as possible with only 2 small thrusters. All it needs to demonstrate is that Radian 1 can complete a successful re-entry with the proprietary Duratherm heat shield. This new material is rather enigmatic, but it has been classified as a non-tile reusable thermal protection system. Radian's Chief Technology Officer Livingston Holder stated to the press, "Duratherm enables high-speed flight of lightweight composite systems that can operate repeatedly without degradation, opening up a universe of opportunities." The thermal protection system represents one of the most critical components of any reusable spacecraft. When attempting to build one with rapid turnaround times, you need something that won't ablate away. Between the rocket sled launch system and the innovative thermal protection system, Radian 1 could potentially become the first company to reach orbit without requiring a rocket booster, something known as single stage to orbit, or SSTO. The technology has never been proven feasible, which is something Radian could change within a few years. This would constitute a massive development since it's far more economical to launch and recover one component as opposed to 2 or 3. The inaugural flight is scheduled for 2028, which means we're not far off. This is a stainless steel fuel tank for a super heavy reusable rocket. If you've followed the SpaceX Starship program, you've seen this exact same design numerous times before. Except that tank, despite appearing nearly identical to early Starship designs, doesn't belong to SpaceX whatsoever. In fact, that tank wasn't even manufactured in the United States. Instead, this tank was produced in China for the nation's new Starship-like rocket designated as Long March 9th. The rocket is being developed to transport Chinese astronauts to the Moon and Mars in the mid-2030s. This would be the 12th vehicle added to the family of rockets and would be by far the most powerful, exceeding the Long March series by over double the thrust at liftoff. It would also rival SpaceX's Starship in thrust and capacity, making it the second most powerful rocket ever constructed, even surpassing NASA's SLS moon rocket. It is designed to be a partially reusable rocket, with the first stage capable of executing a landing at the launch site or on a remote drone ship. If that sounds somewhat familiar, that's because it adopted some design concepts from the Starship Super Heavy in both its appearance and functionality. We've witnessed multiple revisions to the rocket's design over the years, dating all the way back to 2016. At that time, the rocket was intended to be a 3-stage rocket with a first stage consisting of 4 solid rocket motor side boosters. Since then, the rocket's design has undergone significant transformation to its new stainless steel reusable configuration. These modifications are undoubtedly attributable to the rapid development and achievements that SpaceX has accomplished with Starship. China has been observing closely and clearly wants to replicate that success. Now they have finally completed their first Pathfinder steel tanks. One of the tanks measured 5 meters across, which represents a more conventional rocket size than a super-heavy vehicle. However, the other tank was a massive 10.6 meters across, which is actually even larger than Starship, which measures 9 meters in diameter. The larger tank section developed by the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology is the largest stainless steel ring ever developed for a rocket in the history of space exploration. This gives the rocket an even greater diameter than the Saturn V rocket booster from the Apollo era, which remains the widest rocket to ever fly successfully, though still falling short of the 17-meter diameter of the Soviet N-1 moon rocket, which did fly but never succeeded in reaching space. Similar to Saturn V, however, is the fact that China plans to use this rocket to place astronauts on the moon and Mars, and they would like to accomplish it before the United States does.